So good morning everybody and welcome to our EstimatorXpress Software Skills course. Thanks for joining me this morning. Just a quick intro, my name's Olivia and I'm the trainer for the duration of this course. As well as doing some training, I create a lot of the help materials, so the digital help resources like the videos that you might have seen on our website. So thanks again for taking the time to join the course and try and get up to speed with the software. So today's module is all about learning how to set up the price book to reflect the prices that you pay. So we're going to spend some time reviewing all of the rates in the 5 different sections of the price book. So within EstimatorXpress, the price book is divided into labour, materials, plant, subcontract, and what we call sundry. That's a lot of pre-construction costs like your design costs and engineering costs, surveys and so on. So during the course of today's session, I'm going to show you how to edit the prices of the resources within the price book. And I'll also show you how you can add your own resources to the price book. And finally, I'll show you how you can use a feature called Favorite Merchants to set up EstimatorXpress to use your preferred merchants. So if you have a link with one of our merchant partners, with Travis Perkins, TradePoint, Keyline, Crystal Direct, we can set up a link to your trade account so that you can download the prices you pay, so your terms and discounts, directly into EstimatorXpress, so that your prices are live prices and what you actually pay at your merchant. Okay, so you'll remember that when you open your software, you will start in this screen, the dashboard screen. If you're not on the dashboard screen at the moment, if you can click dashboard on the navigator menu on the left hand side, it will bring you back to this screen. So if you've gone into an estimate or something, click dashboard and it will take you back here. So just for Scott's benefit, who's joined us today for the first time, on the left hand side we've got this navigator menu. Along the top we've got what we call the ribbon. It's the menu, the toolbar at the top of the screen, and that's got multiple tabs. So the ribbon at the top of the screen will change depending on which screen you're in, and there will be different buttons, different tools that you can click on there. Okay, so what we want to do is look at the price book. Now the price book is contained within the library. So on the navigator on the left hand side of the screen, if you can click the library button where there's a cog icon, and that will open up the library. Now the library contains all of the underlying settings which feed into all of your estimates. So the price book contains the prices for your materials, labour, plant and so on. The library also contains the specifications. Now the specifications tell the software which resources you're going to use for each task, so which material choices you're going to use for a particular job and which labourers are going to do a particular task and so on. So if you come into the library here, you can change and update all of these global settings, which will then be used for any estimates that you subsequently create. So we're going to be focusing on the price book section here. If we click on where it says price books on the navigator, that will take us to the library of price books. And you'll see from here that the software comes with one price book out of the box. So you can actually create your own price books if there is a very particular need to do so. But whilst you can do that, in the majority of cases, we suggest that you just use the master price book and adapt it to the rates that you pay. And the reason for that is that if you create duplicate price books, you will then be entirely responsible for keeping the prices up to date. Whereas this master price book is linked to our prices on the web, and you can do a price update and that will update your prices. So any price book that you create yourself, you will have to go through and regularly review all of the price books. It won't be web linked, it won't be live. So the only real scenario where you might need a second price book is if you work in 2 different geographical areas and your prices are vastly different. In that case, you might need to set up a second price book, but for the vast majority of our users, just using this master price book is the way to go. So if we click the Open Price Book button, we're then given a choice of which section of the price book we want to look at. So we're going to start with the labour section. So that's the second one in the list. If you can click on labour and then click select, and the labour section of our price book will open up. So on the left hand side of the screen, you will see a list of descriptions of all the different labourers and gangs which are used within the software. So they are divided into trades. So it starts with bricklayers, and then we've got carpenters and joiners, tilers, decorators, demolition, and so on. The next column shows their list price. So that's the price assigned to them as the software comes out of the box. All of the labour rates are hourly rates, as you can see. The column here, unit of supply, tells us the unit that we're working in. So if you pay your people by the day, then you're obviously going to need to divide that figure by, say, 8. So if you pay someone 160 quid a day, then their hourly rate would become £20 an hour. So you need to type in 20 next to the relevant labourer. I'm sure there's probably more labourers and gangs in this list than you actually employ. That's okay. If you've got some multi-trade people, what you would do is you would set the rates of the tasks they perform or the trades they perform to match what you pay your multi-trade guy. So if you've got a chap named Bob who does your bricklaying and your joinery, then you'd find the bricklayer rate, set that to what you pay Bob, find the joiner and set that to what you pay Bob as well. So of course the list prices in here are national averages, and naturally labour prices vary greatly throughout the UK. So you're going to need to do a bit of tweaking of these list prices so that they reflect what you pay your tradespeople. So what we want to do is work our way down the list, editing multiple rates. And the quickest way to do that is to click the Editing Tools button. So on the ribbon at the top of the screen, there's a button called Editing Tools. If you click on that, you'll see we get a menu with different options. And we want to click the Edit Prices button for now. So we've gone to Editing Tools and then Edit Prices. And you'll see the purchase price column here has opened up. We've now got input boxes, and that means that we can type directly into the cells. It means the column's unlocked. So throughout EstimatorXpress, most of the data, as you'd expect, is locked down so that you can't cause any damage. You can't corrupt the data in there. But when the columns turn to input boxes like this, that means you can type data in. So if we start by looking at our bricklayers, you'll see we've got a mixture of individuals. So we've got Brickie's mate, and then we've got some gangs as well. So we've got bricklayer and mate, and then at the top we've got 2 bricklayers and a mate, and then 4 bricklayers and 2 mates. They are ordered alphabetically or alphanumerically, so it seems slightly random, but we've got those bigger gangs at the top. So if we start with the bricklayer, if you click on one of the rows, it will become highlighted in blue, so that's quite handy for when you're scanning across the screen. So if we start with our bricklayer, think about what rate you pay your bricklayer by the hour. So I'm in the East Midlands, so rates are slightly lower here. So I'm going to tweak that and say I pay 23 quid an hour for my bricklayer. So type in whatever figure you pay your bricklayer. So just click into the cell. I've literally just typed in 23. You don't need to type in pound signs. You don't need to type in the decimal point and the zeros. Just type in the number of pounds. Or if it's 23.50, of course, you can type in that. So once you're happy with that, you can then go down onto the next row and change the rate of your bricklayer's mate. So again, work out what their hourly rate is. type that into the input box. And once you've done that, once you've updated the prices of the individuals, you then need to do a quick bit of arithmetic and work out the prices for the gangs. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen automatically. So the next labourer we've got, or gang we've got, is a bricklayer and mate. So if we combine the prices of the bricklayer and the mate, and his mate, I should say, then you can put in the total price for the brickie and mate. Click into the input box, type in their hourly rate, and then I'm going to skip back to the top. I'm going to work out 2 bricklayers and a mate. So this is taxing the old grey matter first thing in the morning. So I work out that's 60 for mine, but work out whatever your total hourly rate would be for 2 brickies and a mate. And once you've done that, you can double that figure to type in the cost for 2 brickies and 2 mates. Okay, so you can see how in a minute or two we've updated the prices for all our bricklaying gangs. And what you would do, we're not going to do the entire labour section of the price book today, because there's lots of other things I want to show you, but hopefully you understand how to do it now. And when you've got a bit more time, you can just work your way through the different trades and update their rates. So once you've finished inputting your prices, on the ribbon at the top of the screen, where there's a floppy disk icon, it says Save Edited Changes. If you click that button, Save Edited Changes, a dialog box pops up saying, do you want to save these price changes as an adjustment? So what we want to do is click Yes to that. And then you'll see in the purchase price column your rates. The list price still shows the software's original list prices for all the different labourers. And this adjustment figure here is quite interesting. It shows the percentage difference between what you pay and the software list price. So as I said, you can just continue working your way down the different trades, updating those prices as necessary. So it shouldn't take you too long. It's not a massive section. So I've showed you how you can edit the prices for your labour rates. You can also add in your own labourers to the master price book. So if you wanted to, there's a button called New Resource on the ribbon at the top of the screen. So you could use that to add in a new labourer or a new gang. So say you work on you've got a new build site and your bricklaying team gang is a 3-in-1 gang. So you could add that into the price book if you wanted. The thing to bear in mind is that you would then need to go into the specifications and select that particular gang wherever a bricklaying gang is used. So at the moment, our new build spec is set up to use a 2-in-1 gang. So you would need to go into all the places where the 2-in-1 gang is used and swap in your 3-in-1 gang. So we're going to look at specifications in depth next week, and hopefully that will begin to make a bit more sense. But just so you know, you can add those labour resources in. If you need to add specialist labourers, for example, a specialist floor tiler or a specialist glazer, for example, there might be something in there we haven't got. You can add them in if you want. So Paul's asked a really good question. Is this specific to one estimate that you're working on, or does it extrapolate to all others? So this is your template price book, basically. So when you create an estimate, EstimatorXpress takes a copy of this price book and uses it to create an estimate price book. So we are setting up the rates for the default rates, basically, for all of the estimates that we create. Once you've created your estimate, the copy of the price book that it creates within the estimate can then be tweaked further. So if you need to tweak your rates within a specific estimate, you can do that as well. But what we're working on in the library here is the template prices. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So these are your default labour rates that you're going to use. So whenever you create an estimate, these rates will be copied into your estimate, but you can then, within the estimate, tweak them. Okie dokes. All right, so that's the labour section. We'll move on to the material section now. So to move to a different section of the price book, on the navigator on the left, you'll see it says Master Price Book, and then there's a list of all the different sections. So if we click where it says Material, that will take us to the materials. Now, the materials section of the price book, as you'd expect, is significantly bigger than the labour section. And I think it probably could seem quite daunting to start with. But what we recommend that you do is that you filter the price book. So you break it down into smaller chunks and just look at different material types to help you review the prices by type. So there's a few different ways in which you can filter the price book. So the first thing you can do is to filter out different suppliers. So some of you will just have the link to the HPXL Price Tracker Plus prices. HPXL Price Tracker Plus prices are ones that we've put together. We review the various merchants and put together an average list price for the product. So it's a generic price list, basically. Some of you will have links to some of the merchants whose terms we can download, such as Travis Perkins, Keyline, TradePoint, and I've noticed you, Paul, you've asked about Jewson. Unfortunately, we don't have a link with Jewson at present. But if you do have an account with Travis Perkins, TradePoint, or Keyline, and you haven't already linked it up to the software, let me know and I can get one of the team to give you a call and we can get that sorted. All we need is your trade account number. And there's a cost of £29 per year, I believe, to set up that link. That just covers the costs, basically, of us getting that data from the merchants and regularly updating it. I think for most merchants it's updated about once a week, so the prices are really up to date on that. So as I was saying, there's a couple of different ways that you can filter the material section of the price book. So one way we can do it is by filtering the merchants. So you see in the material section, again, we've got a description of the resource, so a description of the product. We've got the list price, and a few columns along, we've got the merchant column. So that tells us which merchant the product comes from. So when you place your cursor over a column heading, you'll see this little funnel icon appears. So that's the filter icon. If you click on that filter, don't click anywhere else in the column because that reorders the things in the column. It does them alphabetically. If you click on the filter icon itself, it brings up this menu. So you can select which particular merchants you want to look at. So if I select HPXL Price Tracker Plus, and if you do the same at your end, you'll see the list is filtered to only show HPXL Price Tracker Plus. Once you've selected the items you want, you can click anywhere else on screen and that will get rid of the filter menu there. I'll just do that again to show you. So I hover my cursor over the merchant column, click the filter icon, and then I can select the merchant. So you can untick the boxes, tick the boxes of the merchants you want to show. So have a play around with that if you have any other merchants set up in your software. Once you've done that, make sure you finish with HPXL Price Tracker Plus selected. Paul's asked, can you add in other suppliers to that filter? You can, and I'll show you that shortly. When we look at adding products, I'll show you. Great, Scott, I'm glad you're back. Is your sound working okay now? Brilliant, I'm glad you're back with us. That's great. So I was just showing everybody how you can filter the merchants. So if you hover your cursor over the merchant column, click on the filter icon, you can select which particular merchant's products you want to look at. And Paul was asking, can you add in your own suppliers? And yep, I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So as well as being able to filter the merchants, we can also filter the material types. So a few columns over to the right, you'll find the type column. So that's material type. And again, when you place your cursor over the column heading, that filter icon appears. If you left click on that, then you'll get a list of all the material types. So you can select which particular materials you want to have a look at. So you might want to just look at drainage, or you might just want to look at insulation products. But to start with, we're going to look at our blocks. So you'll see about 5 down in the list, we've got blocks. If we tick blocks, you'll see the price list is much reduced. It's filtered to just show those blocks. And the HP Excel Price Tracker Plus filter is still there, so it's showing us HP Excel Price Tracker Plus blocks. So click anywhere on screen to get rid of that filter menu. And we've now got that list of about 15 or so blocks. So now you can see when you've got a smaller chunk of the price book, it's much easier to edit the supplier prices. So to edit the prices, it's exactly the same process as it was in the labour section. On the ribbon at the top of the screen, we click Editing Tools, and then we can click Edit Prices. When we click Edit Prices, this purchase price column opens up, unlocks, so that we can type directly into the cell. So we'll have a go at editing some of these block prices. So I'm going to start with the everyday blocks, the solid dense concrete blocks, 7 Newton 440 by 215 by 100. I'm going to click on the row so that it's highlighted in blue. I can see the list price is currently £15. And it's always handy to have a look at the unit of supply. Of course, here we're working in square meters, so it's £15 per square meter. So I'm going to say that I pay my local merchant £12 a square metre. So click into the input box and type in whatever rate you pay your local merchant for a square metre of these solid dense concrete blocks. So once we've done that, just to show you what happens after you've done that, click the Save Edited Changes button. And we'll get this this dialog box saying, do you want to save this change as an adjustment? It's really important that you click yes, and I'm going to talk you through why it is. So for our solid dense concrete blocks, we can see our purchase price is now, mine is £12 per square metre, yours might be slightly different. And the adjustment column here shows us the difference between the list price and what I pay. So I'm paying 20% less. So the adjustment, in short, shows that percentage difference between what you pay and the list price. So what will happen is if the average price of blocks goes up, then your purchase price will also go up automatically. So at HP Excel, we put the list price up or down when the market moves up or down on a product, as your supplier will obviously do. So in this way, your price will go up or down, but that percentage difference, so that adjustment there, will always be maintained. So my purchase price will always be 20% less than the list price. So we've got a button here, the Download Prices button. So whenever you click that button, you can download the latest list prices into your software. And if you've got a link with one of the merchants, it will download the latest available discounts from your merchant that we've got on your account. So giving the example of these blocks, say the price of blocks jumps up to £20 per square metre. So say that the list price goes up to £20 per square metre. My purchase price will then become £20 minus that 20%. So my purchase price will be updated automatically by the software to £16 per square metre. So the software does do this automatically. Yeah, that's right, Paul. So it means once you've edited your prices once to match what you pay your suppliers, and then you've saved that price change as an adjustment. So you've clicked yes when the software says, do you want to save this as an adjustment? Once you've done that, it means your purchase prices are going to update automatically, as long as you click the Download Prices button regularly, so you've got the latest prices. Your purchase price will move up and down in line with the market rate, but keeping that adjustment relative to the market price. Okay, so the idea is that you're only going to have to do this process once of updating your prices. Set your price differences as adjustments, and then you're cooking on gas. Okay, so we'll do a little bit more practice of editing prices. Let's have a look at the aggregates now. So using the type column here, again, click on the filter icon where it says type, and top of the list we've got aggregate. So tick aggregate and then untick blocks. That will remove the blocks from the list. Then click elsewhere on the screen. So again, if we want to edit the prices of these materials, we go to editing tools on the top menu and we click edit prices. That column becomes unlocked, so we can just type in the prices we pay. So let's start with the ballast bulk bag at the top. Type in whatever price you pay for your ballast bulk bag. I think it's typically something more like £30 to £35, but type in whatever you'd expect to pay. I'm going to change mine to £30 per ballast bulk bag. Then have a go at editing the building sand bulk bag, so that's the third in the row. Change it to whatever you pay. Of course, you might have to do a bit of research, query some of these things with your merchant. I'm sure you've got a good idea of the rough cost of these types of things. And then pick something else that you'd like to review the cost of. Sharp sand bulk bag, change that as well. Okay, so once you've reviewed and changed at least 3 of those different aggregate products, then to save our changes, we can click the Save Edited Changes button. Just a quick note, if you forget to press that Save Edited Changes button and then you navigate to somewhere else in the software will automatically save it as you move on. But if you click the Save Edited Changes button, then click Yes to save those changes as adjustments, you can then see that adjustment figure there and you can double check that your purchase price looks correct on screen. So you'll see that we are updating the HP Excel Price Tracker Plus products at the moment for training purposes. But you can update HP Excel Price Tracker Plus products to match what you pay from other suppliers. So you might have a local supplier who you use for timber products, say, or you might use the local quarry for your aggregates. And of course, we don't have a merchant link to those smaller local suppliers. So what you can do is set the HP Excel Price Tracker Plus products to match your local suppliers. We find that lots of our customers use a principal supplier for the majority of their materials, but then use some smaller suppliers for particular ranges. So if that's the case, so say you use Travis Perkins for the majority of your prices, for the majority of your products, you can have that merchant link with Travis Perkins, but then set up the HP Excel Price Tracker Plus products for your aggregate products or for your timber products or whatever. And at the end of today's session, I'm going to show you how you can tell the software which suppliers to use for different material types. So we'll look at, it's called favorite merchants. We'll use that at the end. Okay, so hopefully you're getting a feel for how to edit the prices, how to adjust them so that they match what you're paying. Just before we have a go at adding some materials, I just want to talk to you really quickly about bricks. So if we filter the materials to show bricks, so we go to that type column heading, click on the filter, and if we tick bricks and untick aggregates, and then click anywhere else on screen, you'll see because there are thousands of different types of brick on the market, instead of making a giant list of all of them from all the different manufacturers, we have a relatively short list of facing bricks and reclaimed facing bricks with allowance prices. So this means you can simply pick a brick that's closest in price to the ones you are going to use during a job. And for those of you who were present for the last module, you'll remember when we created the estimate, we selected the facing brick price allowance. So really that's just to avoid duplicating thousands of different bricks within the price book, when really it's not necessary. All we need to know is the cost of the brick. Okay, so that's bricks. We've looked at how we edit material prices, but of course you can also add materials into the price book. In fact, you can add any product into the price book. So you can add labourers, materials, plant items, subcontractors, and sundry costs. But most of the items I imagine that you're going to want to add in are going to be material products. So we'll take a few moments just to have a go at doing that. There's no limit to the number of resources that you can add. You just need to know a few key facts. You need to know what the material is called, what its name is, how much it costs, and how it is supplied, so the unit of supply. So it might be supplied individually, which we call each, like the bricks here. It might be supplied by the square meter, as blocks were. It might be supplied by the roll, by the cubic meter, and so on. So, for example, if you wanted to add in a new type of insulation product, like Celotex or Kingspan type thing, you'll know that's bought by the individual sheet. Cavity wall insulation is bought in packs, so that's bought by the pack. Lots of timbers will be purchased by the meter. So I'm sure you know that kind of stuff off the top of your head. So when you want to create a new product, the easiest way to do it is to find a similar product in the price book already, and then you can copy that and use it as a template, basically. Of course, if you want to add something entirely new that isn't already in the price book, you can do that. That's absolutely fine. So just as an example, we're going to add in an insulation product. So if we use our type filter again to select insulation products, so I'm going to untick bricks. You'll need to scroll down to the eyes to find insulation and tick insulation. And you'll see we're looking at the materials list for insulation products. So ensure that your merchant column is showing HP Excel Price Tracker Plus products. So what we're going to add in is a sheep wool product. So that's one area where our price book doesn't have tons of products because it's obviously changing all the time. So you might find that you want to add things like sheep's wool in there. So what we want to do is find an insulation product which has a unit of supply of each. So it doesn't matter exactly what it is. In fact, I'm going to click the very top one, the acoustic rock wool. Its unit of supply is each. We're going to use that as the template, as the starting point for our new resource. So once you've done that, on the ribbon at the top of the screen, click the New Resource button. And what the software does is it takes a copy or makes a copy of your selected product. So to start with, then we need to give our new product a description. So you can see the text there is highlighted. So we can just click the backspace key or delete key, and then we can type in a new name for it. So let's call it sheep's wool. I'm not going to put an apostrophe in there, just because I'm not sure if the software likes them or not. And then we're going to put in its size. So it's a 4 meter by 380 millimeter by 100 millimeter roll. So sheep's wool, 4 meters by 380 by 100 mil. The reason I put the dimensions in there is that when you come to specify this wool for whatever task you're using it for, you're going to need to know the coverage of the wool roll. So we also then have what we call the customer friendly description. So there's an option when you create your quote to use what we call customer friendly descriptions. So these descriptions drop any manufacturer names and also simplify the names of resources so that they're easier for the layman to understand, basically. So you can have a slightly different description if you want to. So I'm going to highlight where it says sheep's wool. So starting at the right hand side, I'm clicking and holding down my left mouse button to highlight that text, and I'm going to use Control C. So these are some Windows shortcut keys, basically. Hold down Control and C on your keyboard to copy and highlight the customer friendly description, and press the Control and V keys to copy that text into the next box. So Control and C to copy, Control and V to paste. If you use it all the time, I know it's probably very obvious, but if you don't, it's quite a handy tip. And then we have finally what we call the plan specific description. So if you use PlansXpress, there's a function where you can import your specification into your plans. So this will define how the materials appear in there. So I'm just going to copy the first description and use that in the bottom box as well, so that it contains the detail there. Okay, so those are the descriptions. Then we obviously need to give the product a cost. Remember, any prices you enter need to be excluding VAT. So the unit cost for this, let's say it is £49.50. Type in the unit cost. Discount and adjustment we can leave because we're typing in the cost we're paying. Now, unit of purchase. If you click on that unit of purchase drop-down box, you'll see there's a wide range of different purchase units. If we scroll down, there is one called roll. The sheep's wool is bought by the roll, so you can select that. If the unit you need isn't in there, you can add it in. And then we can select the merchant. You can use HP Excel Price Tracker Plus if you like, or if you think it would be useful to you, you can add in your own merchant. So as I said, if you have a local merchant that you regularly use, you can click the add button, type in their name. In fact, I think I might have done it already. Yes, I have. So yeah, click add, type in the name of the merchant, click OK, and then they will be added to your list. So I've added a fictional merchant called Williams and Sons. So you can then assign materials to your particular merchant, and then that merchant will appear in the merchant filters here as well. So you can filter the price book just to look at that particular merchant. If you're not bothered about adding your own merchants in, just stick with HP Excel Price Tracker Plus. Treat it as your go-to merchant, as your generic merchant that you use for the majority of what you do. Okay, the insulation type has been selected because we started with an insulation material, so that's fine. Then we've got merchant code, you don't need to worry about, that's automatically assigned. VAT rate, so that's set to the current default value of 20%, but you could change that if needed. And then we have wastage. So this first wastage field is wastage including order quantity. So with a lot of material, building materials in the software, it's set to about 10%. So with insulation, it's set to 10%, but you can change it to whatever you think is appropriate for the material you're adding. We have this second wastage field, which is called wastage not affecting order quantity. I'll talk to you a bit more about that later. But wastage increasing order quantity adds 10% to your order quantities and obviously adds 10% to your costs. So if you're happy, you can see the cost here, including your wastage percentage, but excluding VAT and profit. If you're happy that's all correct, click OK. And then it will seemingly do nothing, and that's because the material gets added to the bottom of the list. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see it there. So let's have a go adding one more product. And I want to just show you some more allowance products. So using the type filter, this time we're going to have a look at what we've got for bathrooms. So if you could tick bathrooms, I'm going to untick insulation as well. Now you'll see within the bathroom section we've got tons of allowance figures. Now these are typical of the sort of products where the price could be anything within quite a wide range, and it's often down to customer choice. So very often I expect the customer will be selecting the bathroom suite and so on. So what I would like us to do is to add in our own bathroom suite. to this list. So if we start with any item, again, as long as it's got a unit of supply of each, that's fine, because we're going to buy a single bathroom suite pack, if you like. So click on one of the items, click New Resource, and let's call this a luxury 3-piece bathroom suite. Luxury 3-piece bathroom suite. The descriptions you give the resources are important because they will appear in the customer quote. So if you're putting something like a budget bathroom suite in there, just be careful about your wording. You don't want to put cheap bathroom suite. I'm sure you wouldn't, but just as an example. Also make sure your spelling's correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that description and put it in customer friendly because that's fine. And in the plan specific description, they can all be the same in this case. And then we can put the unit cost in. It could be anything, couldn't it, from £1,000 to £10,000. It's one of those things, isn't it? Let's say it's 2,500, just as an example. So the unit of purchase is each because we buy one bathroom pack. Merchant will set it to HP Excel Price Tracker Plus. The type is correct as well. I missed these two earlier, actually, the delivery and payment times there. So just set them to whatever you'd expect them to be. What's the lead time on delivery like to be, and on payment. Those figures will go towards informing your material order schedules for the delivery side of things and your cash flow in terms of payment. So just looking at Paul's question here, what happens to margin on those sort of supply items? Your profit markup, so whatever it's set to for materials, will be the same for all of these different materials that we're adding here. So would you normally have a different level of markup on this type of item, Paul? Oh, okay. If you could explain to me what you usually do, and I'll have a think about it. Yeah, and talk to the guys about if there's a workaround for that. Okay, so delivery and payment terms, VAT rate as before, change it if you need to. And then the wastage. So we've talked about wastage increasing order quantity. So with something like a bathroom suite, of course, you can't order 10% more of a bathroom suite. It's a whole item. But what you can do is you can add wastage which does not affect order quantity. So this can be used for whole items. So anything from boilers, taps, windows, doors, and so on. You can enter a wastage percentage for those items. It will obviously not add anything onto the order quantity, but it will add a wastage percentage onto the price. So it kind of builds in a buffer for any of those unforeseen circumstances. So for the odd sink that gets dropped over the course of a job, if you add that small percentage on across all of your different materials, then it just covers you, because there is inevitably going to be the odd bit of damage or breakage, things that need reordering, and that's what that wastage field covers you for. If that's not something you want to do, that's absolutely fine. You can zero out that field, and then there'll be no wastage added on for your bathroom suite or your boiler and so on. Okay, so once you've done that, click OK. Once you're happy all the fields are correct, and then your bathroom suite, if we scroll down, oh, there it is, right at the bottom, has been added. You've probably noticed that materials you add yourself are highlighted in red. That means that they're your products, they're your bespoke products, and they will not be automatically updated. So if you do a price download, it's not going to impact on the list price or the purchase price, and that's because our system at our end doesn't recognize that product. So what that does mean is that periodically, I don't know, every 6 months or something, you might want to have a quick look through your price book and double check those products highlighted in red. Make sure they still look right. For a product like this, it may be that you update it on a job by job basis anyway. But for some other, like your sheep's wool, you might want to update that every 6 months. Just review the price. So hopefully now you've got a feel for how you can add products in to the price book. So you can add materials in that way, you can add labour, plant and so on. But there's a big caveat with that, and that is that you don't need to add any materials that already exist in the price book. So say, for example, you want to add your own building sand bulk bag and you want to add it in with your own price. There's no reason to do that. Don't do that. Just edit the price of the HP Excel Price Tracker Plus building sand bulk bag to match what you are paying. Because if you add your own building sand bulk bag in, as I've just explained, you will then have to review the price and keep it up to date. So let us do that hard work for you. If there's a material already in the price book, edit the price of that existing HP Excel Price Tracker Plus material. Don't add your own in unless it's something entirely new that you need to have in there. Okay, so new resources, use that button, new resource, only when you need to create something that doesn't exist in the price book. Okay. Okay, so Paul, I'm just reading your note here. You're saying with an item as we've just discussed, the bathroom suite, it's a supply item, so you just normally buy in for the customer and there's a 10% markup rather than, say, a 30% markup, which we apply across the estimate. Okay, I'll ask Tom to advise on that one. What's the best way? If there is a workaround with that. Okay, so I'll come back to you on that one. So for plant, if we look to the navigator on the left-hand side and click the plant section in the master price book list. So the remaining sections of the price book, again, are much smaller, so it won't take us very long to work through. So the plant section is a list of tools, equipment, as well as large plant that you may use during the construction process. And it may be that you hire the equipment, it may be that you own the equipment. I think this is something that Lucian asked me during the last module, and I don't know that I answered the question entirely helpfully at that point. But our thinking is, if you own the equipment, so if you own your digger, you still need to charge for the use of that. Otherwise, you're not covering your capital expenditure on those particular items. So in the case of a digger, you might have finance on it, so you might be paying interest on it. There is wear and tear and maintenance. There's fuel costs. There's depreciation. So it obviously costs you money to own the plant item, and it therefore costs you money to run it. And so our thinking is you need to apportion some of those costs to the particular estimate that it's going to be used for, the particular job it's going to be used for. So you need to charge for its use, otherwise your profits are going to be severely eroded, and when your accountant looks at your books, your profits aren't going to be looking so healthy. So whether you own or hire the equipment, our approach is you need to charge for the use of it. Okay. Plant prices are not kept up to date by HP Excel Price Tracker Plus. They only update the material prices, so that's something to bear in mind. So just like with the other sections of the price book, you can go to Editing Tools and click Edit Prices to update the prices of the plant, tool and equipment items. So it's a case of looking down the list and adjusting the prices for anything you think needs a different price. I'm going to highlight a few items that I think are particularly important for you to look at that can have a significant impact on your estimates. So about 20 lines down, we've got our JCB, which we call the Backhoe Excavator and driver. We've also got a mini digger and driver, and a tracked excavator and driver. So for all of these items, the purchase price is a combined cost of the equipment hire, or the equivalent if you own it, and also the cost of paying somebody to drive them. So it could be a hired driver, it might be you, it could be one of your employees, it could be a ground worker, but you need to make sure that the cost you enter here adds up to the daily rate for plant hire and the labour to drive it. So you'll see the unit of supply is day, so this is a day rate. So if the plant costs 100 quid to 100 quid per day to hire, and your employee costs £160 per day, then the total plant cost would be 260. Okay, so update that rate to show the hire and the labour to drive it. Repeat the process for your mini digger. And update them quickly, and your tracked excavator. Okay, next I want to look at some welfare items. So I want to find the portable toilet and site cabin. Now, sometimes you can find things really quickly, but often I get blindness looking at these screens. So at the top of your screen, you should have a search box. If it's not there, if you press the Control and F for find keys on your keyboard, that will bring up this search box here, Control and F for find. And then you can just type a search term into the box. So if I'm looking for my portable toilet, if I type in portable, press the search button, or you can press the enter key on your keyboard, and it's actually a filter, so it filters the plant section to just show you portable toilet. Once you've found it, if you click on it, then press the X button on the search, it will what's it done with it? Oh, there you go. If you scroll down, you'll find your portable toilets highlighted, but you can see the full list. So our portable toilet is a weekly hire rate, so that's set to 40 quid. Update that if you need to. Site cabin is set to £50 a week. These kind of items over a longer job, obviously the prices mount up, so you want to make sure they're set as accurately as possible. Then just below this, a couple of lines down, we've got a 20-ton tipper and driver, including landfill tax. So again, it's the cost of the tipper, the driver, and also the landfill tax amount, which will vary depending on the council that you're working in. So make sure that looks about right for your area. And then next thing I'm looking for is the skip. And again, I'm suffering from blindness, so here we go. Scroll down, there's a whole list of different sizes of skip. So if we have a look at the 4.6 cubic metre skip, 6 yard, that's set to £180. Make sure that's correct. It might be a little bit higher in your area. I think that's about right for most of the UK, but we have heard stories of it being as much as £280 in London and Oxford. So it's obviously a regional thing. So make sure it is set up correctly, because if you're working in London and you use 10 skips during the duration of a job, each skip's 100 quid more expensive than you've estimated for. You're out by £1,000, aren't you? So we want to get these things right. And of course, there's various different sizes of skip, so you'd want to review the various different ones. Okay, so that's skips. And then the last thing I just want to talk to you about is some parking related things. Permit charges for skips, says Steve. Yes, that is an important one, and it's something which is included in your site establishment section. So within the quote template, if you go to Prelims, Preliminaries and Sundries, within there's a section called site establishment, and within there's an input where you can say how many days of permits for your skips you need. So that is in there. And is that what we mean by base suspension fee, in fact? So we've got base suspension fee, we've got congestion charge when you're working in cities, and we've got daily parking fee. So if you are doing work in a built-up area and you have to pay those costs, then of course you need to make sure those are set correctly. I'm sure that parking can really mount up for those kind of jobs. And if you get it wrong, you're going to really eat into your profits, which is obviously not what we want. So I've just drawn your attention to a few items in there that I think are particularly important to think about. But when you've got a few minutes on your hands, if that ever happens, take the time to just have a look down the list and see if anything stands out as being vastly different from what you are paying. Once you've finished making any changes, it's the same routine as in every other section. You need to click the Save Edited Changes button. Save it as an adjustment. That will show you the percentage difference. I go back to my diggers at the top. We can see the adjustment figure there. The adjustment in the plant section doesn't work in the same way because the list price isn't updated, but it is handy in showing you the difference between our original list price and what you've set the software up to. Okay, so 2 sections left to look at. The last 2 are actually very short, so it won't take us too long. So if we move on to the subcontract section, so on the navigator, click Subcontract. So within the subcontractor section, you will see a list of various quotation types that you might need to add or include in your estimates. They are set to different contractor types, and the vast majority you'll see in here are set to £1 each. So for those of you who were in the session on Tuesday, you'll remember that you can add your subcontractor quotations in the subcontractor quotations section of the quote template. So all you need to do within the price book is add your contractors in and give them a £1 list price, and then when you're in your estimate itself, you say how many pounds a particular subcontract quote is going to cost, and the software will add the costs in that way. So if you want to add your own subcontractors in, if you feel we're missing something from here, you can add it using the new resource button, but make sure you give it a £1 cost. There's a few exceptions to the rule within this section of the price book. So for example, we've got a flat roof waterproofing allowance, which is set to £40. It's in this section of the price book because we've heard that flat roof waterproofing is generally quoted as a supply and fit rate for materials and labour. So because this is traditionally priced up by Rufus as a supply and fit cost, we've set up the software for it to work in the same way. So using the subcontract section allows us to do that. So it's set to £40 for a bitumen type finish. But if you're using fiberglass, GRP, something else, then the price could be a lot higher than that. Of course, there's many different types, so you just need to make sure you adjust it to the system being fitted. So there's a couple of other similar things. So we've got a budget price for electrical installation, for plumbing and heating, various other items that work in the same way. But for the subcontract quotations, you'll see they're all set to £1. And then within the estimate, you simply type in the number of pounds that each subcontract quotation costs. So Lucian, I've just seen your question. Could you please show us one end-to-end? Sorry, I don't know when your question popped up, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you could explain a little bit more, that would be great. Thank you. Do you mean show you how to add a subcontract quotation in? Subcontract quotation type in. Okay, cool. Yeah, we can do that. So if we click on the new resource button, it's going to copy whichever contractor in the list you had selected. So in this case, I've copied decorating contractor. So let's say I'm going to pluck an idea out of the air rather. So let's say we want to add a specialist floor contractor. So type in your description of the subcontractor. I'm going to copy and paste it. For the customer friendly description, it can be exactly the same. So the unit cost is set to £1, so that's correct. We don't need to change that because, of course, for each subcontract quote that we type, that we add into our estimate, the quote amount is going to be different. So we just need it set to £1 here. Unit of purchase is set to unit. That's absolutely fine for a subcontractor. It's obviously copying all of the fields from the resource that I started with. So it should all be fine as long as you select a quotation or contractor type from the list. So the merchant is set to provisional. That's how we assign our subcontract quotations, because obviously the merchants aren't relevant in this case. Type. You can see we've got various different types in there. You could select the specialist contractor option, or you could add in your own type, specialist floor contractor, in there as well. In this case, it doesn't really matter. In the case of something like plumbing, we've obviously got multiple different plumbing contractors, so you might want, because you want to be able to group them together, but where you're just adding a one-off, the type isn't so important, so you could just put it in as a specialist. Delivery and payment, obviously in this case, it's how far in advance of a job are you going to need to ask this chap if he can come and do the work, what's your payment lead time, what's your VAT rate. So as standard, the subcontractors are set up with a 20% VAT rate, but in some cases it may be that needs zeroing. And then of course we don't need to worry about wastage or a subby. So really quite straightforward process, hopefully. And then click OK, and our new contractor has been added into the list. So when you're next in an estimate and you go to the subcontract quotations section, your specialist floor contractor will be in the drop down list there. Okay, so that's the subcontract section. Of course, you're not going to want to edit any of the prices within here because they need to be set to £1. Then the sundry section. So sundries deals with lots of preliminary costs. So structural engineers, surveyors, planning applications, insurance, health and safety costs, and so on. Basically costs that you as a builder are going to incur prior to construction starting, but ones that you're still going to need to include in your quote, unless you're not really bothered about profits, of course. So as per all the other sections of the price book, you can create your own sundry costs. So you can use the new resource button to add in additional sundry costs that you feel you need to use. But as with the subcontract section, you'll see they're all set to £1. And that's because when you go into your estimate and you look at your planning and design costs, for example, you will type in your architect's fees. So it might be £1,200 or whatever. You would type 1,200 in, and because it's set to £1 here, it will multiply £1 by 1,200, and that's how you get your subcontract cost within your estimate. So if you add any sundry items in, make sure you give them a £1 list price. Okay, so that is the price book covered. I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind tour, but there was one other section of the software that I wanted to show you, which I've referred to already, and that's favorite merchants. So if we look at the navigator, a couple of lines down, we've got favorite merchants. It's got the star icon next to it. If we click on favorite merchants, so favorite merchants simply allows you to set whose prices you want the software to use. this setting is useful if you have a merchant link with one of our partners, so Travis Perkins, Keyline, TradePoint. If you only have HPXL Price Tracker Plus products and are editing those prices to match your assorted merchants that you use, then you will not need to use this function. So it's only for people who have HPXL Price Tracker Plus and at least one other merchant setup in their software. So the most straightforward way of setting your favorite merchant is to select one merchant for all of your material types. So you can use the drop down box at the top to select the merchant you want to use. So by default it's going to be using HPXL Price Tracker Plus, but I'm going to say I want to use TradePoint for all of my materials, for all my material prices. So if I select that and then click set, if you haven't got multiple merchants at your end, that's fine. You can just watch for a moment. We won't be on this section for very long. So I can select one merchant for all of my material types. But what's perhaps more useful is that I can pick and mix, and I can select different merchants for different material types. So if I go back to that example of perhaps you buy your aggregates from your local quarry and your timber from your timber merchant down the road, then I could select TradePoint as I have done for the majority of my resources. So I use those for the bulk of my material purchases. I can then look at the different material types and set particular types to HPXL Price Tracker Plus. So if I set aggregates to HPXL Price Tracker Plus, and then if I find any timber products, so carcassing timber, say, what else have we got? Timber moldings, timber various. It may be that I get my doors and so on. So select HPXL Price Tracker Plus for where you purchase your materials from a local merchant, and then within the price book you just make sure that those material types are set to the prices of your local supplier. Okay, so you won't need to worry about the prices of your bathrooms, your blocks, your bricks if you're purchasing them from TradePoint, or if you're purchasing them from Travis Perkins, they will have your discount set up. But for these particular material types, I'm going to set the prices for these in my price book to match my local supplier. Lucian, you're saying you can't see TradePoint. It may be if you don't have TradePoint account, you might not be able to see it. That's just the one random trade account that I've got linked to my software, which I'm using as an example. But don't worry if you don't have any other merchants. Okay, so that's how you can pick and mix which suppliers your software uses for the different material types. Once you've made your selections, there's a button hiding at the bottom right here called Save Preferences. So you can click that button, and then the software will then go through the specifications and it will swap the supplier's products for the equivalent. So for my aggregates, it will go through and say I want to use all my HPXL Price Tracker Plus, but for my blocks and my bricks, it will go through and make sure I'm using the TradePoint resources, or whatever selections you've made. It will update the materials that are specified within your specs. Okay, so congratulations, that's our second module finished. Just one thing to take away really from today, and that's the old adage, if you put good in, you'll get good out. So if you can spend a few hours tweaking your price book to have the correct costs, then you're going to have that really good base set of data to use in your estimates. This will then allow you to use the data for accurately estimating costs, of course. It will help you to correctly calculate your profits, net and gross profits. It's going to help you with negotiating discounts and deals with your clients. Because if you don't actually know exactly how much profit you're going to make, how can you know how much of a discount you can give before you're actually in a loss-making position? once you've got these accurate estimates, of course, you can have a forward view of your cash flow. You can monitor your costs. You can spot those cost overruns more quickly because you've got a handle on where you should be. So obviously the benefits of getting your prices set accurately and your specifications, as we'll look at next week, it's going to have a huge impact on the running of your business and the profits that you can make. Quick quiz then, just to recap the stuff we've done on the price book. So the first question then, I should just say the quiz is totally anonymous. All I get is percentages of people who've answered the questions. So what price should I type in for labour rates? So if I'm typing in labour rates, do I put them in as hourly rates, daily rates, or weekly rates? Place your bets, please. Okay, so the correct answer is hourly. All of our labour rates are set up as hourly rates in the system. So if you use daily rates generally to pay your guys, then you need to divide by 8 to work out your hourly rate to type in there. Okay, so that's our labour rates. Next one. This is a really important one, actually. I hope you take away from the training today. So what's an adjustment to a price in the price book? So what is an adjustment? Is it the difference in pounds between my price and the downloaded list price? Is it the percentage difference between my price and the downloaded list price? Or is it a discount applied by my merchant to a linked merchant account product? What is an adjustment? Oh, a few people hanging back from answering this time around. Oh, there we go. Everyone who's answered has answered correctly. So yeah, it's the middle one. It's a percentage difference between my price and the downloaded list price. And you'll remember that if you do a price download, your list prices will be updated regularly. But if you've applied that adjustment percentage, then your purchase price that is used for your estimates will always be that percentage above or below the list price as you set it up to be. Okay, 3 more questions. So what type of resources can I add to the price book? Materials, labour, plant, or all resource types? What types of resource can I add to the price book? Yep, you've got it. All resource types. So you can add a material, you can add a labourer, you can add plant, and you can also add subcontractors and sundry items. And penultimate question. What price should I give to a new subcontractor I'm adding to the price book? We went through doing that, didn't we? So do I add an hourly rate, a total cost for a particular task, or £1? So we're talking about when we're adding a subcontractor quote type within the price book. Okay, so the correct answer is £1. So when you're adding the subcontractor into the price book, you give them a £1 cost. When you are subsequently adding a subcontract quote into your estimate, then you would do the middle one, which is to add the total cost for that particular task that's included in the subcontract quote. So within the price book, always add them with a £1 cost. And then within your estimate, you would type in the total cost. And the final one is on favourite merchants. How can I use favourite merchants? To select one supplier for all of my materials, to select different merchants for different material types. I don't need to. I don't have a merchant link. Sorry, there's a typo there. Or finally, all of the above are true. So how can you use the favourite merchants tool? You can select one supplier for all of your materials. You can select different merchants for different material types. If you've only got HP Excel Price Tracker Plus products, then you don't need to use it at all. So all of the above are true, but I think you all grasp that anyway. So that's brilliant. Okay, thank you so much for your time.